at the EMU Convocation Center for WXC 65. And we have with us undefeated professional lightweight from Fuse MMA, fighting out of Lapeer, Michigan, David Newport. Now you'll be facing Brandon McLaughlin from Michigan Top Team. Now, before we talk about your professional career, you had an impressive amateur career, ending that by holding 2 different belts in the welterweight division as an amateur. And now you move to lightweight and face somebody that's kind of been almost a fringe teammate, someone who's frequented some of the same places as you in the past. But ever since people tried matching you up, it seems like you guys went 2 separate ways. He's at Top Team, you're at Fuse. A lot of the same coaches crossed through both doors. Mm-hmm. Do you know much about your opponent?
I know he's a wrestler. I know he trains with a good camp at Michigan Top Team. He's recently new there. Besides that, his stand-up seems pretty decent and decent jiu-jitsu skills, I guess. That's pretty much all I know. Tested. He's very well tested.
And what do you pride yourself in as being your strong point, or where did you start building your weapons from?
I had extensive wrestling background, and I started pursuing jiu-jitsu, and so I guess that's my go-to, is the grappling aspect, but I'm comfortable wherever the fight goes.
Well, every fight does start standing, so have you been putting extra work in since you become a professional to maneuver while you're on your feet?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been training at Fuse. I've been going there since this March, and I've been training the likes of Ben Lagman, Adrian Hadrabay, Josh Bruckner, Miles Jury frequents that gym, so I've been getting the reps in.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys are your size or bigger, so it looks like you'd get a lot of decent and different looks from standing opponents. It should be helpful. Of course, McLaughlin will be having quite a few unorthodox looks as well, as he talked about when we were speaking with him earlier as well. Now, what has your pro career been like? You're 3-0. Who have you been victorious over?
My first fight 3 years ago when I turned pro, David Roan. He was a tough amateur coming out, both of us 0-0 as professionals, and had a good win over him. Followed up a year later with a bout against Aaron Cook, tough stand-up guy, and had a good win against him. And I took a few years off. I had a shoulder surgery and hip surgery, and recovering from that, trying to get back up on my feet. And I just came back this past June, and I fought Chris Archer, and had a first-round submission over him.
Another tough fight right there. Now, after the surgeries, do you feel like you are better in tune? Do you feel like they did make a difference?
Yeah, I feel stronger, and it's changed my game a little bit. I can't move like I did before the surgeries, but I think it's opened my mind up in different avenues to help me.
Well, and it also makes studying film obsolete as well, with large breaks like that too. Now, when we talk about the fans getting ready to attend at the EMU Convocation Center on Friday, October 21st, what kind of a message would you like to give to the fans that are going to be watching this highly anticipated matchup in the lightweight division?
I know Brandon McLaughlin's war tested. He's fought some of the top guys in the state, and I've been out for a while, but I know both of us are top lightweight prospects in the state, and the winner here will definitely cement themselves as a top prospect.
And is there anything else you'd like to say to your opponent before we get ready to shut the steel door on the 21st?
I know he's training hard. He's at a good gym. I respect him and those guys. Just bring it.
Action. Dave the Butcher Clifford here for WXC as we get ready for Friday, October 21st at the EMU Convocation Center in Ypsilanti, Michigan for WXC 65. I'm here with professional lightweight Brandon McLaughlin, who will be facing David Newport. Now, Brandon, you're representing Michigan Top Team, and you're also a blue belt with 3 stripes in jiu-jitsu promoted by Royce Gracie. So obviously, your opponent's going to be expecting a lot of grappling, but I'd like to know, how long have you been with Michigan Top Team now?
I've been with Michigan Top Team for, I want to say, about 4 to 5 months. When I left the Gracie Academy sometime late spring, I didn't have many training partners, and I didn't feel like I was going to make it at that gym, even though their technique was great. But as far as professional competition, I felt like I needed to venture out and look for a better gym to go to. So during the summertime, I kind of looked around, hopped around gyms, tried to find the best fit for me. And I walked in the top team, and I know a lot of people there, and I feel very comfortable there. They opened their doors to me, welcome arms, and that's where I want to be.
And how much fun is it as they prepare for fights where they can soccer kick, being in the same weight class as people like Darren Cruikshank?
Cruikshank, he's definitely probably the toughest guy in there to spar because, he does fight a different style due to fighting overseas. We don't do the head kicks in the room for obvious reasons. But the intensity in there is very high when it comes to training for the fights. But we do keep each other really safe. No one gets injured. So it's pretty fun.
Well, the main event at EMU will be featuring another lightweight out of Michigan top team, Jason Fisher. I would assume that with you coming in as a jiu-jitsu competitor with a wrestling background, that you probably got thrown on the mats pretty quickly and have had a chance to learn quite a bit from Fisher.
I actually haven't had the chance to roll with Fisher just yet. We've been mainly focusing on the stand-up portion because I'm trying to work on my stand-up. My jiu-jitsu and wrestling is pretty solid right now, and I'm trying to catch my stand-up to my ground level. So when me and Fisher go, it's usually kickboxing, boxing, and stuff like that. He helps me out a lot. But obviously, me and him will be main training partners for each other leading up to this fight, fighting on the same card, being the same weight. So I'll be finding out in the next week or so how that goes on the ground with him.
All right, now after you left Alma College competing as an NCAA Division III wrestler, you wanted to try, you basically had a trial by fire, taking your first amateur fight on something like a couple of weeks' notice with just college wrestling. How did that pan out for you?
It went really well. I actually, when I left college, I didn't know what else to do with my time. I was just working out, and I was fiending for the competition. And my dad was like, maybe you should try mixed martial arts. So I found the closest gym, and that's when I ran into Pedinelli and all the other WXC guys. And I just wanted to jump on the card. I've been fighting my whole life, so I told him, put me on your next card. It was like 2 or 4 weeks notice. And it actually panned out really well because my opponent was a boxer, stand-up striker. So I felt like if I could hold my own for at least a couple seconds to get him down on the ground, it would be fine. And I finished that fight pretty quickly.
Well, now as a professional, you're focusing on striking because your grappling's so good. It's interesting how that comes around full circle, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So, before we move on to your opponent again, 3-2 is your professional record. Now, pretty impressive victories over Ruben Bariak, now teammate Brandon Noble, and Tim Chirato. I mean, those are fixtures in the Detroit MMA scene, and you hold victories over the three of them in this lightweight division. Again, speaking of trial by fire, one of your pro losses coming to Pretty Boy Troy Lamson, who has widely been regarded as a phenom by most here in the Midwest, until the awkward contract, which he just has become victim to with the organization not to be named. And so take me into the trial by fire. Was Lamson your first, or was Espinoza your first mixed martial arts fight, or did you start with a victory? As a pro?
I started with a victory as a pro, fighting Brandon Noble for the second time. We fought once when I was amateur for my title defense, my first title defense in Prison City Fight League. And, he wanted some redemption, so we fought again as professionals. And that fight was a lot tougher because, he had some revenge pushing him. And I ended up finishing that fight with second round TKO. The first fight was first round TKO. We're actually pretty good friends now and great training partners.
Noble being the first time you saw the second round, having finished a perfect amateur career at 7-0, finishing everything in the first round and having 2 amateur lightweight titles when you decided to turn pro. How many fights into your career was it that you experienced your first professional loss, and what did that do to your career?
My first professional loss was my second professional fight. I was collectively 8-0 at the time, and it was against Jamie Espinoza, who was 8-0 as an amateur, I believe. And it was his professional debut. And, first round was going back and forth. He's a very, very tough fighter, very technical on the ground. And then the second round, I ended up getting back mount, and I was only a couple punches away from finishing that fight. And he ended up slipping out, and I had his back, and I was going to go for a suplex, but he had his hands down on the mat and did some really crazy stuff and did a front flip through his own legs and got that slick knee bar. And it really wasn't something I was expecting, and it really pushed me to learn every single submission that's done in jiu-jitsu in the cage. You know, that's really hard to do because you never know what the other guy's going to do. There's so many moves, but
And modifications.
yeah, exactly. And you know, I've had to switch my game up a lot because of that, and you know, it just pushed me even harder because that first loss, it really sucks.
Well, the evolution of the athlete will parallel the evolution of the sport. You know, I remember a few years ago interviewing one of the all-time greats, and till he sends me a check, I won't name him. But one of the things that he had told me about 2.5 or 3 years ago was right before the Henderson super kickoff of the cage. Mm-hmm. I asked him where he thought the evolution of the sport was going to go, and he said, watch the cage work, watch the clinch work. That's where your next super moves are going to come from. And I'll be damned if it wasn't just 2 or 3 months later. That Don Fry's words rang true. And it was really something. I mean, it's true how the evolution of the athlete will parallel and push the evolution of the sport. Now, one of the things that's involved in the evolution of the athlete is mental preparation. Mm-hmm. And now, being undefeated as an amateur yourself, facing your first loss before, handing other people their first losses, you're fighting an undefeated opponent in David Newport, representing Fuse MMA. If anybody's naming off the top gyms in the region, right alongside Michigan top team, they're going to be saying Fuse MMA. Another high-level coaching staff producing some tremendous athletes. What do you know about your opponent, David Newport, and what are you doing to mentally prepare to try to take someone's zero away?
I don't know too much about him. There weren't too many fight footages that I could find on the guy, but you know, he has taken some time off of fighting that I've seen. He just had a recent fight. He hasn't been really active in my years of fighting. As an amateur, I shot up to pro really fast, and I climbed the pro rankings very quickly. And I don't believe he's fought nearly the level of competition that I fought as a pro. So I'm not too worried about him as of, you know, fighting tough guys. He hasn't fought a guy like me before. But, you know, I take everything with a grain of salt. So I believe Newport will be a very tough guy. I hear a lot of tough things about him. I know he's very good on the ground. He does come out of a very great gym. You know, guys like Marco Small and Josh Bruckner. Those guys, tremendous athletes, as you were saying. So I know this won't be an easy fight. You know, I'm just staying focused, studying him every single day, studying the holes in my game and studying the holes in his.
All right, and now as we get ready for October 21st in Ypsilanti, Michigan for WXC 65 inside the EMU Convocation Center, I'd like to know if you have a message for all the fans, anybody who's going to be watching this out there, anybody, why should they come and watch you compete on October 21st?
They should come watch me compete because I haven't been training like this ever in my life, because I've reached a point in my career where I need to make it or break it. I can't take another loss, even though it's only 2 losses, but you know, I was at the top of the ladder and I want to be up there again, and I want to keep continuing to beat the top guys. So what I did was I quit my full-time job. Now I only work part-time nights on weekends, so now I can train tremendous hours throughout the week, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. So literally I live, breathe, and eat fighting. So Newport's going to have his hands full.
Well, that would lead me to my next question. Your message for your opponent?
You better come ready, because I'm a completely different new fighter, and you've never fought anybody like me.